my recording. I seem to be having troubles currently. Okay, what's going on, everybody? This video is recorded right after my last one. I'm going to upload 2 today. Today's video is a story. I don't have a script, so it's going to be right off the dome for what I can remember. I'm going to give you 2 stories because they're fairly short. This is about when I went camping. So, way back when, I'm talking like 10 years ago. We'll go like 2015 or so, because that's about 10 years ago. When I was 10 years old, well, about 10 years ago. I'm not quite 20. So 10 years ago, little old me, if you can imagine. I'm not going to do any fancy drawings or anything. I'm going to just give y'all how it is. So back in the day, I had a dirt bike, right? Cool little dirt bike. It was green. I still have it. It's probably going to get sold here soon because my family needs money. But I had a little green dirt bike. This thing still runs like a champ. It just, like, vroom, vroom, vroom. It'll fire right up and go. But on this fateful day, here's what happened. So keep in mind, there is a trail where we go camping out in the desert. There are 2 trails. There is a trail that is straight pathed. I got hiccups. There is a trail that is straight pathed, like that just goes straight, like curves at the end or something. And then there's a path with what I call whoops. Like, it's just bumps that go like this. I call them whoops, or my family calls them whoops, because, like, whoops, I crashed. Nothing good happens on the whoops, okay? If you ride dirt bikes, you might call them whoops too. I've seen them called it like somewhere else, but, you know. But either way, so I was going. Back a while ago, 10 years ago, I've been riding dirt bikes my entire life, since I was about 7-ish. So a long time. Now I'm pretty skilled at it, but back then I was going, right, on the green dirt bike, because I'm a fairly tall individual, sort of, about 5'10", so back then I was like, I don't know, short, so I couldn't really save myself, so this is where it comes in. So back then there's the straight path I was talking about, and then there's a path that goes like this. I was on the straight path, and I was gunning it down. I was going at least, like, you know, what I thought was 100 miles an hour, but in reality we're probably talking about 15 miles an hour, because that's about how fast that dirt bike will go. So I get to the path, I'm going quick, and then it curves off the end, and then it'll circle back around to where you could go back this way, because that's how trails work. So on this fateful day, I decided I was going. We were 2 days into our camping trip. I decided I was gonna ride my dirt bike alone, because no one was there to ride it with me, because people suck. So I go out on the trail, a trail I've ridden 1,000 times. I'm going, I ride down the thing about 50 miles an hour. I get to the end of the straight trail, and I'm like, that was good. I can do that. That is quick. That was quick. I can circle back around, but this time, I'm going to go on the bumps, the whoops. I'm gearing up for it. You know, I'm sitting there, I'm like, should I go on it? I don't want to hurt myself. Then, me being the spontaneous fool that I am, I went on them. So on them I went. They start off pretty small, but they, like, eventually start getting, like, pretty deep. And I'm going, and if you've ever worn riding clothes or, like, riding boots, you know, like, the dirt bike pegs, like, say this is a peg, right? What hand is that? Your foot kind of sticks off like this on the peg, like, to the side, because dirt bike boots are clanky. So you feel like a clumsy fool in them. So I'm going, right? And as I'm going, there are a bunch of sagebrush on the sides of the trail, like, layered with them. And as your feet stick out, so, like, as you're riding the thing, your feet stick out like this. Like, they're kind of like that. Or at least mine was back then, because I had pretty big boots on for not my size. So I'm going, I start speeding up, because I'm like, oh, I can speed up more. So the bumps start coming quicker. And quicker. I was getting a pretty good speed. I was going to stay at the speed. And then, out of nowhere, a sagebrush catches, like, the tip of my boot, rips me off of my bike. I go over my handlebars, and I hit the floor. Now what happens here, I hit the floor, but, like, imagine this at the ground. I caught myself, like, or I landed like this, so it fractured, like, all of this in here, like, right here, like, around here, whatever it was. It was on my growth plate or something, so I could have had a chance to have a small hand. I got 2 big man hands now. I have giant hands. So I'm going, catches my boot, and I get ripped off my bike. I go over my handlebars, and then I hit the floor. All of a sudden I came to. I hit my head so hard on the floor. I was wearing a helmet. Safety first, ladies and gentlemen. I was wearing a helmet. I hit the floor, bashed my nose on the floor, my whole entire, like, in a helmet, you have, like, the goggles that are right here, right? And then there's, like, a mouthpiece right here. Everything from my mouthpiece up into my goggles was filled with blood. All the stuff from my mouthpiece to my, like, up here into my eyes almost was filled with blood from my nose, because apparently when I caught myself, I slammed my face on the floor too, and the helmet did what it was designed to do. It took the impact, but about broke my nose in the process. So that didn't feel very good. That was the first time I've ever broken a bone, and it hurt. I tell you what, for as little as it was like a hairline fracture or something, whatever they called it. So it was like the world's tiniest break, but oh, I thought my hand was gonna fall off. Hurt so bad. And then where I was, to get back to camp easy, not take the bumps, there's a whole bumpy trail that you go on, and my grandmother was driving the side-by-side that we have. We grew up like doing side-by-sides and dirt bikes and all that, so that's where that comes from. So I had my hand sitting on a thing of baby wipes, right? And every bump because it was my left hand, every bump that we came across, I wanted to cut my own arm off. It hurt so bad. But granted, that was the first time I'd broken a bone, so I wouldn't know what that felt like or had to deal with it. All I know is it hurt. So there it was, I'm hurt, I'm crying because, you know, I just busted my arm. I felt like the whole thing was busted. I thought it was going to be like a staircase. It wasn't. Instead, it just got all big and fat and hurt forever. And then I had to stay at camp for 2 more days because we wouldn't leave. Because apparently it wasn't that big of a problem. It wasn't really that big of a problem. I could still do stuff, but back then I was young, like 10 years old, so I was like 5th grade, so I was not having it. Then we went home, I got a cast and all that. Now we're here. Now I don't know if you can hear it, but my arm pops so much right here. Now I'm prone to break this wrist again. I've almost done it like 3 different times since then. I just remembered, bonus story, there's gonna be 3 in this. So back in school, I was with my friend, right? We did weight training together, and in my school, you had to have fitness for life, which is like PE, and then you had to have weight training for some reason. So that's what we did. Me and my friend were in the class together. We were doing like back when I used to work out. Now I don't. Now I'm just fat and content. So yeah. But back in the day when I was used to work out, we did the bar. What is it called? The bench press. That's what it's called. We were doing bench press, and you know how you have to get the weights off the rack and stuff. I somehow dropped the weight. I'm almost 6 feet tall, right? I dropped it from up here above me, so this was like 6'2", 6'3" almost, because it was clear up here. I grabbed it and it somehow slipped out of my grasp, and like the top of my foot right here, it landed like right on the top of my foot like that. I went to the doctor, right? Because I was sure I broke my foot. I thought for sure that there was no coming back from that. I thought I was done. I went to the doctor, and apparently there was no break in my foot, but ooh boy, I thought it was done. I thought I was gonna look in my shoe when I got home, and it was gonna be about this big, and I thought it was gonna be this big, and I thought my toes were gonna fall off of my sock. It hurt so bad. And that was in like 3rd period. I had to go a whole nother like 2 hours in school with a busted foot, and I don't think it ever healed right, because randomly it hurts sometimes because I walked on it a lot. You're not supposed to, like with foot injuries, you're supposed to get crutches, but I'm stubborn and didn't want crutches or a boot. So yeah, I walked around with a broken foot. I broke my foot at school too. And this story's kind of dumb. So one time my face got like really puffy in the dumbest way possible. You would have thought I had an allergic reaction. Let me explain why. So again, we're camping. Back in the day, this wasn't that long ago. I was in like, what, 8th grade, so 9, 10, 11, 12. So almost 6 years ago, I guess. We went camping, and when we got there, me and my cousins or whatever, me, my sister, and my 2 cousins, we found this tarp. Like, it was like a piece of plastic off of, who knows what. It was like, it's a giant piece of plastic that is still around the campsite to this day. Granted, now it's turned into like a target practice thing, and it's all messed up, but that's besides the point. When we found it, pristine condition, a good old giant piece of tarp. It was like a dream come true, alright? What we did with it wasn't a dream come true. My grandpa, he had a pallet. He brought a pallet to use for firewood. We decided to take that pallet, and somehow we got the sled. We turned it into a sled, but we got the piece of plastic to stick onto the pallet, and we got the piece of plastic to stick on the pallet, and that was like a sled. That's what we did. Now, this is where the story begins. So back then, my sister was the only one old enough to drive the side-by-side, and we were on the sled back there because we just made this new contraption, so we were like, of course, let us use it. So we were, that's what we did. That's what we did. We used the contraption like how any little tween would. We rode it on the back of a side-by-side, hooked to a rope. We ended up towing a sled, and we had 2 people sitting on it so it wouldn't fling over. We had 2 people sitting on it to balance the weight out. Here's the side-by-side and here's the sled. It was like this far apart. Imagine this is that thing and this is the sled tied by a rope. And that was like the funnest thing ever. We were going, it would like slide behind. It wouldn't actually, depending on how sharp you turned, it would like sled, like a sled. And then I went to, it was my turn, right? I was sitting on the back with my cousin. Me and her were sitting on the back, right? And we were going. It was like, woo, woo, or whatever. Then we hit a patch of dirt. All the dirt hit us in the face or whatever. And then it was like really bouncy, so we're like going like that and whatever. And all of the dirt and stuff from the floor was off the thing. And we had just like put on sunscreen and stuff so, you know, we don't get a sunburn. And all of between the dust and the sunscreen and the rubbing motion of my goggles like this on my face going like this, 2 days later, we were home. It was a Monday. Mind you, I went to bed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just fine. I woke up Monday. Boy, my face looked like I got beat up in a back alley, I tell you what. So I got out of school for like a week because no one knew what happened. I thought I had an allergic reaction in my sleep. Thought I was gonna die, honestly. But we went to the doctor, and get this, right? We went to the doctor, and this fool tells us I'm allergic to the sun. The sun? Doc, I'm not allergic to the sun. No one's allergic to the sun. That is still a running joke to this day because that's the stupid doctor was like, yeah, he allergic to some vitamin D. Is that the sun? I don't. He allergic to the sun, even though we just told him what had happened. Sunscreen, dirt, rubbing. And he was like, yeah, he allergic to the sun, all right, keep him out of it. Now, if you... that would be a kid these days. That would be their dream, to be stay inside and be like, oh, doc told me I couldn't go out. Doctor's orders, right? Not me, because I go camping and stuff all the time. That's what I do. I'm always out in the sun anyway. I'm not allergic to the sun, because if I was in the sun all day today, I would have came back recording this looking like I got beat up in a back alley again. And we just thought it was funny, because it was like, he's allergic to the sun. Not anything else that had happened. So yeah, moral of the story is, if you find a piece of plastic and tie it to your grandpa's pallet in the middle of the desert with a side-by-side, mix sunscreen and a helmet in the mix, and a bunch of, like, doing this across a bunch of bumps, you know, it doesn't really work out that well. Who would have guessed? That's really it, though. I said in the video before that I was going to do a story time, because this is all I can do. I have, like, a weird headache thing going on. I still do. I think it's because it's so ungodly hot in here, but that is why. That is why I'm sitting here telling you a story. I got a bunch more stories if you guys want to hear more. This is a different take on my content, but I'm trying to branch out on stuff because I like to do more than just gaming. So let me know what you thought in the comments. Tell me I'm stupid for doing all this stuff. I don't really care. But that is all. So thanks for watching. Keep subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodaloo. It's so hot in here.